Is something like copywriting worth pursuing in 2025? That's a question I get asked very, very often. And I think it boils down to two main problems that I see a lot of beginners getting themselves into. So, on one end, there's people that are struggling with just getting a client, aka client acquisition. So, that's the main struggle a beginner will face. They don't know how to get or sign their first client. And so, from my own experience, that can be a problem, which I'll get into how I solved it. But again, client acquisition is the first problem a lot of people will face as a beginner copywriter. The second problem is a skill problem. A lot of people don't feel that they are good enough to become a copywriter or to work with a client. So those are two camps that I have been on calls with a lot of beginners, and time again, those are the two problems that come up. And so if I was starting from zero, again, this video is about what would I do? Is it worth being a copywriter in 2025? And this, again, is going to be my opinion coming from someone who has made, at his best month, $4.4 thousand as a copywriter. What are the steps I should take? What do I focus on to avoid the skill issue as well as the client acquisition issue that so many beginners face? So to summarize this entire video, it's absolutely worth it. Something like copywriting will get you paid minimum as a beginner an extra $1,000 a month. I can guarantee that to anybody if you follow the steps I'm about to lay out in this video. So if I were starting from absolutely no knowledge, I didn't know about copywriting at all, these are the books that I would read. Cashvertising, Take Their Money, and then the Boron Letters. This is what the Boron Letters looks like. It's one of my favorite books I think I've ever read. Highly recommend reading this book right here, the Boron Letters. The next one that is kind of off the list, I said Cashvertising and Take Their Money, two also very good books, is Ninja Selling. When you get on a sales call, trust me, it can be a little bit scary. I remember when I started out as a copywriter, I hopped on my first ever sales call and I closed my laptop because I didn't know how to handle certain objections that they threw at me. For me specifically, I didn't know how to handle price. So again, if you're just starting out and you know nothing about pricing, about the skill of copywriting, I highly recommend you hit the books. After watching this video, stop watching YouTube videos and instead educate yourself through books. In the description of this video, there is also a school community where the book summaries are all listed out. I've taken the time to make full-on book summaries in case you don't want to spend money on the book, but also to actually learn the skill of copywriting. So with that out of the way, the first step is to educate yourself on this skill. I promise you, you only need to read between 1 to 3 books. And in the Boron Letters, the book I just showed you, this book right here, honestly, in my opinion, is all you need. Read that book, maybe even read it through again, take notes, and I promise you, you will have a very basic understanding of copywriting. The other part, which is the next step, is to just practice every single day. Practice copywriting. I would recommend creating a portfolio or some past work in a Google Drive folder and store everything that you've practiced. You could do, emails for myself, tweets for myself, Instagram, video transcripts for myself, for example, and toss them all into a folder or a Google Drive folder or a Google Doc document and save it for whenever you get on a sales call. And you can show that potential prospect what kind of copy you're able to write. I promise you that will be a game changer. And if you have 30 examples of copy, it's going to make the sales process a lot smoother, and you'll also have practice writing copy. The next part, step 3, a lot of people don't know if the copy they are writing is good enough. So in order to kind of, attack that problem, join a group, join a community of people, Go on Twitter specifically as well, because there's tons and tons of copywriters who will review your copy and tell you if it's good or not. Now, if you don't want to join a community, you don't want to join that school group in the description, that's completely free. You don't want to look on Twitter. I would recommend going to something like ChatGPT and ask them, using the author's tone, grade my copy, using the author right here, Gary C. Halbert, grade my copy as if you were the author of the Boron Letters, something like that. Grade my copy using well-known copywriting frameworks, something along the lines of that. Will tell you exactly what is good and both bad about your copy. You should be attacking and you should want to hear all the bad things about your copy. That way you can make it better. Obviously, you don't want to hear the good things. You want to hear the negative, the bad things. There's a couple of frameworks that are pretty well known in the whole copywriting space. You need to learn those, and it's also a good idea to maybe ask ChatGPT, did I effectively use something like ADA, which if you read the book, you'll understand what ADA is. Did I use the ADA copywriting framework in this piece of copy? And if you do that between 30 to 60 times from copy you've written, I promise you, you're good to go. Like there isn't that much more you need to do. 30 is over the top practice, but it's also a really, really good number to know if you're good or not at writing copy. So with those out of the way, the most important part, after you've kind of learned the basics of copy, now it's time to get your first testimony or your first case study. This is what you need to be gunning for. This is what's going to make or break your copywriting career. So the first, again, it's very, very important you get a testimony to show that you're capable of writing copy and some other business trusts you. For a while, I was putting this off. I didn't want to hop on sales calls like I mentioned earlier. It is critical that you get a testimony or a case study. My recommendation, go find a content creator you really like and you also you want to write for, and write some emails, write some tweets, write some content for them. In return, you get a case study or a video testimony that you can then use for your own business. It's only going to be 30 days of, practicing with this content creator. If you also get to write their emails, that's going to open the door for you as the copywriter. It's going to make the whole thing a lot easier. That's exactly what I did. I worked for completely free, and to start, I didn't want to do that. I waited 20 days until I said, you know what, I need case studies, because I would hop on sales calls and people would say, well, do you have any past work? Do you have any testimonies? I had nothing. So the first step into really signing clients and getting that snowball effect is to get that first one, that first video, preferably where they say, hey, I worked with Trey. Of course, this would be your prospect or your client that you're working with. I worked with Trey. He wrote copy for my emails and some of my social media content. He did an absolutely amazing job. I highly recommend working with Trey. He increased my MRR, monthly recurring revenue, by $4,000 extra per month in just 60 days. If you get the chance to work with Trey, I highly recommend it. Something like that would be game changer, and the snowball effect of something like a testimony like that will change your life without a doubt. So educate, get testimonies. And next up is the outreach aspect of copywriting. This, again, is where a lot of people fail. This is where a lot of people struggle. In my opinion, I have sent between 1,000 to 2,000 cold DMs over on Instagram. If you go look at my Instagram page right now, I get around 100,000 views every single month. I have just under 2,000 followers, and I have a verified check mark. My page is pretty professional looking, and even after sending over 2,000 DMs, I still don't book as many appointments as I do as opposed to something like Upwork, which is a freelancing website, or something like paid ads, or making YouTube videos as well. I get tons of clients from my YouTube videos. And so for anyone watching, a lot of beginners will try to do cold DM without a personal brand. They won't have a verified check mark. They'll have no content posted on their page, and they're struggling to get clients. Your problem is a personal brand problem, meaning your authority just isn't that good, and you're not standing out in a crowd of over, thousands of people message me every single month. In order to stand out, having something like at least a professional profile picture with good content and a verified check mark, those things are going to make you stand out in the DMs. I can tell you that for certain. The problem with that, something like a verified check mark, it does require $15 a month. And the problem with something like posting content, you do need a camera, but without it, I promise you, it's going to be very difficult if you're not posting content online. That's the most honest truth about this whole copywriting thing. You have to stand out. Get 1,000 to 2,000 DMs every month. I maybe would work with 3 to 5 of them. Not all of them have over 1,000 followers. I'd actually say most of them have under 2,000. But I promise you, if you want to sign clients, if you really want to stand out, having a good profile picture, a good personal brand page, meaning you have content on the page, and a verified check mark is my checklist personally of people who I want to work with. If you have those things, you're going to stand out. And of course, moving to the outreach piece of this video, you need to have a good standout outreach message. You need to use their first name. You need to just grab their attention. Worry about a good open rate. You can just type in on ChatGPT, how do I track my open rate? Every message you send, you should be inputting it into some sort of Google Sheet that gives you a percentage of what your open rate is. Those are the metrics you need to be tracking for something like copywriting. Again, just focus about a good open rate and a good response rate based on that first message. If people aren't responding to you, that's a problem. If people are responding to you, you're in the green. That's a good sign that you're doing something right and you're standing out. So place yourself in a position where people are opening and responding to your DMs. If you can't figure that out, I promise you, it's going to be very, very difficult. And I just told you, optimize your profile, have posts on your page, and have a verified check mark. That will get your open rate increased over 30 to 40%. I guarantee it. I know it works because I've done it myself. With that out of the way, that's the cold, free method approach. If you're someone like me who has a bit of extra money every month to, spend to acquire clients, I highly recommend it. If I could go back and just ditch cold DMing completely, I would. Cold outreach sucks. It's very time consuming. You don't even know if the person you're speaking with even wants your service. So something like Upwork, where businesses are posting, I need a copywriter. They are telling you, I need someone to write copy for my e-commerce business. With something like Upwork, I can spend $3 to apply to the job, and they know I'm interested. They can see some content maybe I've been posting on YouTube or on Instagram. I'm using their first name, and they are much more inclined to work with someone like myself that has, again, read the books like the Boron Letters, take their money, cash advertising, and I can speak their language. It's much easier to book meetings, to book calls on something like Upwork. For every 100 DMs, proposals I send on Upwork, I am guaranteed between 3 to 5 paying clients. As opposed to something like Instagram, for every 1,000 DMs I send, I'm guaranteed 1 client. I'd probably say is a good conversion for how many pieces of outreach you have to send for a client. That is absurd, and I don't want to sit there and send over 1,000 DMs or cold DMs every single month for a client. It doesn't sound fun. It isn't fun. And so something like Upwork, and then doing something like an email campaign, then doing something like paid advertisements, that is the go-to if you really want to fast track something like copywriting and getting clients. That, in my opinion, is the whole game plan. If I could restart and do this entire thing over, that's what I'd do. Don't do anything else besides that, because you're just going to waste your time. It is absolutely worth doing and pursuing something like copywriting in 2025. To give you an answer, you just have to know what steps to take, because there's a lot of junk out there. There's a lot of like automation, outreach tools, and things that you can kind of get sucked into. Worry about, again, the list I just provided, and it's going to be a lot easier. Again, my opinion, just start on Upwork. If you have a couple extra bucks, 100 DMs versus 1,000, you'll get 3 to 5 clients. To me, that's a no-brainer, and I do it over and over again. And there's also a compound effect. Once you get your first 1 to 3 clients on Upwork, months after, months following, it gets even easier. Every 50 DMs I send, now I'm getting 5 clients. So in my opinion, that's kind of the whole playbook. Yes, copywriting is worth it in 2025. It is one of, if not the best skills I've ever learned in my life. If you know how to write well, you will know how to also speak well. You'll be a good salesperson. You'll be good in relationships. I can't stress enough, learning something like copywriting. Do it. It is the best investment of time I have ever made. And so that's kind of the whole rundown on copywriting. Again, yes, it's worth it. Check out the description. There's tons of resources. There's book summaries. There's tutorials on outreach. You name it, it's probably there. So I hope this video helped someone, especially not really sure if they should be pursuing something like copywriting. I hope I gave you a full summary of the whole process and hopefully help someone out, because I wish I had this video when I first started. I've gone through all the pain, and those are kind of all the mistakes I could have avoided having known or watched this video. So again, check the description with all the links. There's tons of super helpful information. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.